I've seen that video dozens, maybe even hundreds of times. Well, maybe not. And every time I see it, I see something else new in it that makes me both excited, proud, and really anticipatory about what the digital supercluster is going to do for the future of Canada. And we do it all with the help of our members and our partners. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sue Paish. And for those of you that have not met, I am the CEO of Canada's Digital Supercluster. It's my pleasure to welcome you today for a very, very special afternoon with Minister Bains. I hope through the conversations we're going to have this afternoon, you're going to gain a better understanding about who we are as a supercluster, and most importantly, what we stand for and what we are doing for Canada, for Canadians, and what we will do in the future. We have an outstanding turnout today, over 300 registered, and we've got 263, I think, on this call right now, members, associates, representatives from government, stakeholders across Canada and across every dimension of our economy. So thank you very much. No pressure. Thank you for what I know is going to be a fantastic hour. I'm going to give you just a quick run of show. I will introduce our exceptional special guest, and he will make some comments. We will have a spotlight on a couple of our members, and then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A with Minister Bains. And then I know the minister is on a very tight timeline, and once the minister leaves, we will have a couple more spotlight presentations from some members and then a Q&A. Before I proceed any further, I do want you to join me, please, in acknowledging how privileged and lucky we are to live in a country where we are able to share lands with our Indigenous peoples. And I would like to acknowledge the generosity of our Indigenous communities in sharing their lands with us from coast to coast to coast. Right now, I am in British Columbia, in Vancouver, where we share our lands here with the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Squamish peoples, and thank you for that. As many of you know, the Digital Supercluster team embarked on an ambitious vision and a journey about 3 years ago, along with our partners in the Government of Canada, from industry, large and small, from academic research and other organizations. We had a vision to build a better Canada, by working together to solve some of industry's and society's biggest problems through the development, deployment, and scaling of Canadian-made digital technologies. Today's very special guest has been on this exciting journey since day one, maybe even before day one, because he actually created the policy. He's one of our strongest and most passionate allies and supporters. He understands the power and imperative of innovation. He believes in what Canada can do and what we will do to digitally transform our economy and indeed our entire society. He's super smart, he's articulate, he's thoughtful, and he's a committed leader. And at times like this, we know one of the most fundamental elements for our future success as a country and as a community is strong leadership. Minister Bains has been a member of Parliament for Mississauga-Malton since 2015, and before that he was the Member of Parliament for Mississauga-Brampton from 2004 to 2011. He is our Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry, and prior to that he was the Parliamentary Secretary to former Prime Minister Paul Martin. Previously, he was the critic for Public Works and Government Services, the Treasury Board, International Trade, Natural Resources, as well as Small Business and Tourism. Basically, he's covered the entire cabinet. Minister Bains has deep roots in his community as a long-standing resident of Mississauga and Brampton, and he has strong ties to the social and cultural associations in those communities. He's been a board member for the Mississauga Food Bank and an Ontario board member for the Heart and Stroke Foundation. He's received numerous awards, and if I started to list them, we would use up all of our time together. It's always humbling, Minister, to be in your presence, and it's always an honor to introduce you. Minister Bains, thank you for taking the time to be with us. The microphone is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Sue, for that very kind introduction. It's great to see the Digital Supercluster team. In particular, I want to acknowledge Bill, who I know from day one alongside yourself, Sue, and others, have done a tremendous job of building up this digital supercluster initiative. As you indicated, this was a vision of ours in 2015 when we formed government. And the goal was we need to, as you highlighted, build back better, solve societal problems by bringing industry and academia and our communities together. And the focus is really around growth and jobs and driving innovation, particularly through the digital platform and digital solutions that you've highlighted. And over the past number of years, we've seen the incredible work, the projects and initiatives that have come through the digital supercluster that underlie the key components of that success, which is investing in people and their ideas, making sure that they have access to a network, that they have access to capital, and that they have the ability to scale up. And you've done a tremendous job of building this ecosystem that is thriving and growing and getting better by the day. And so it's exciting to see the momentum that we've built. And I want to thank you again, Sue, for your leadership, and Bill and others as well. We have much more to do, and I know we're going to have a robust conversation, and we're going to have an opportunity that's going to underline some of the success stories that we've highlighted here. So I'll conclude by saying thank you very much for stepping up and look forward to our conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm actually going to turn the microphone over right now to Bill, and you've very aptly introduced him. For those of you that maybe there might be one or two people in the 260 that haven't had a conversation with Bill. And so for your benefit, Bill Tam is our co-founder. He's the reason the supercluster exists. He drives us every day and helps us see the possible, as well as turning the impossible into the possible. So Bill, I'm going to turn the microphone over to you to lead a bit of a spotlight on a couple of our members. So microphone's yours, Bill.
Thank you very much, Sue, and thank you again, Minister Bains, for joining us today. I'm really excited with now over 800 members and associates that are part of our supercluster to be able to introduce just a sampling of some of the projects and members who have made our portfolio such a success. For this section, what we're going to do is, as Sue mentioned, divide it into two parts. We have a couple of speakers that are going to speak for this segment while Minister Bains is with us, and then a couple of other speakers that are going to join us afterwards and elaborate on their stories. So joining me today are Jessica Regan, who's with a company called FoodMesh, Alexander Bilbily with 16-Bit. We have Lynda Brown-Ganzert, who's with Curatio, and Cory Janssen with AltaML. And it's a real pleasure to have all of you with us today. We'll have an opportunity to showcase all of your projects and your participation and your companies. But maybe what I can do is start off by introducing Lynda Brown-Ganzert, who's just going to share a little bit of information about Curatio and then do a deeper dive afterwards. So Lynda, if you wouldn't mind unmuting and sharing the story of Curatio, please.
Thanks, Phil. Hi, everyone. I'm Lynda Brown-Ganzert, CEO of Curatio. No patient alone is our mission. And our platform matches patients to other people going through the same challenges and gives them curated information, coaching, peer support, and remote monitoring to keep them safe and supported at home. We are now used in over 102 countries, and we are evolving Curatio with the Supercluster co-investment to help Canadian hospitals, health authorities, and others during the pandemic. I'm also a board director for the Canada Foundation for Innovation that fuels the country's R&D competitiveness. It's collaborations like those supported through the Supercluster that will keep Curatio and Canada at the forefront of digital health. I look forward to sharing more a little bit later.
Thank you so much, Lynda, for that brief introduction. And Cory, if I could maybe have you do a brief introduction of yourself, please.
I'm Cory Janssen, co-CEO for AltaML. We're an AI venture builder with offices in Edmonton, Calgary, and Toronto. We're actually in on 4 projects as a supporting member within the digital supercluster. And I would say our experience so far has been frankly excellent. We would not have actually had the opportunity to take on these projects without that matchmaking skill or unique element of the digital supercluster. Throughout COVID, we have actually grown by 30%. And the fact that these projects are here, both COVID and unrelated to COVID, have actually been material decisions in how we've actually kept growing during the pandemic. Looking forward to sharing more later.
Thank you so much, Cory. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Jessica Regan, who's the co-founder and CEO of a company called FoodMesh. And Jessica, if you could unmute and maybe share the story of the company and the project that you're involved in, please.
Certainly. Thank you, Bill. So my name is Jessica. I'm based in Vancouver, and I'm working with a company called FoodMesh. So FoodMesh is a digital platform supporting a network of end users across the supply chain to help connect unsold food with a food recovery network of charities and alternative buyers. And the intention is to help reduce waste and to feed more and to address our food insecurity while also making sure that farmers and businesses are compensated fairly for their work. So I also look forward to sharing more on how the Supercluster has been instrumental to our work.
Thanks, Jessica. Ashley, at this juncture, I think it would be great if you just carried on your story, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, all right. So thank you. And so our project is to build a national food distribution network. And so just quickly to give some context for maybe those unfamiliar with the size of the problem, pre-COVID in Canada alone, there was over half of our food along the supply chain in households was either lost or wasted. So conservatively, that's about $30 billion in lost revenue. And meanwhile, we have about 1 in 8 families in Canada that are food insecure. So we know, thanks to the data that we've generated, that up to 80% of that food is edible and therefore avoidable. So we've got a really big disconnect, and it isn't so much a food shortage problem, but more of a connection and distribution problem. So we launched FoodMesh in 2016 to help bridge this disconnect, and we offer different products and services for the different segments along the supply chain. And most notably two projects, a marketplace for the wholesale and a retail program for food donation across grocery stores, which is now active in 9 brands across BC and growing. And so these programs pre-COVID was, we're generating about 300,000 meals diverted from landfill to those who need it most. Of course, then COVID happened and that landscape changed quite dramatically. I'm sure you've all heard the news about how COVID has crippled our farmers and businesses along the supply chain. We're seeing cases of 50 million liters of milk being dumped, 200,000 chickens being euthanized because there's no end market. And of course, this has lost economic opportunity, not even considering the resources that have gone into this food and ultimately gone wasted. So we were handling these calls, but we realized that our software wasn't quite set up to respond to these challenges, but we just needed to repurpose our software and grow faster. So we reached out to the Supercluster. We put forth a fairly complex and ambitious proposal, and we were fortunate to receive the funds to build a very unique consortium of tech, nonprofits, and industry participants. We are currently building, repurposing our software to offer a emergency response network and building Canada's largest digital food recovery network and working across the supply chain to bridge those disconnects, intelligently match, optimize logistics and shipping. And for our impact, we're really looking to quadruple our impact from 300,000 up to 1.5 million meals each month, thanks to the Supercluster and the support they provided, not to mention the ecosystem of partners that have really shown up to help us achieve this shared goal. So thank you so much to the Supercluster and everybody that's been participating in this ambitious project, and we really appreciate everything. And we see job growth and 35 to 50 indirect jobs as a result of this project. So thank you again, and we look forward to showing our results shortly.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Alexander. Maybe you can share a bit about your company and the project.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill. I'm just going to minimize that. So thank you, Bill, for the introduction, and thank you to the other speakers for sharing their unbelievable stories with us here today. Good afternoon, Minister Bains and members of the Supercluster. My name is Alexander Bilbily, and I'm humbled, truly humbled, to have been asked to share the story of our growing Canadian health startup 16-Bit with you here today. I'm a clinician scientist in Toronto at Sunnybrook Hospital, and I have residency training in radiology and nuclear medicine, as well as a background in computer science. So much has happened globally in the past year that 2016 seems like a lifetime ago when we created 16-Bit, along with my co-founder, Mark Cicero. The reason we did so was pretty simple. We experienced firsthand how difficult, complicated, and expensive healthcare can be. We also saw as physicians how devastating it can be when the healthcare system fails a patient, a family, or sometimes even an entire subpopulation. We strongly believe in a universal, comprehensive, and accessible healthcare system, and we believe that machine learning is not the whole answer, but a big part of the answer to making that feasible and sustainable for all Canadians. Shortly after forming 16-Bit, we won the first international competition in machine learning held by the RSNA in 2017 for pediatric bone age assessment. Our work in bone age actually led us down a path to validate a number of predictive algorithms regarding bone health. Perhaps most exciting is the first of its kind patent-pending method of screening for osteoporosis from a standard X-ray of a patient that was acquired for any reason. In that way, we're essentially enabling free, widespread screening for a devastating disease, allowing us to proactively identify patients for treatment before they suffer a devastating fracture, while saving the healthcare system billions of dollars in downstream costs. Our philosophy and approach is to create sustainable impact in healthcare by extracting clinical value from existing data to empower proactive and preventative medicine. This has resulted in a number of academic and industry partnerships that are all aligned towards this common vision. And together with the Supercluster, we're doing the exact same thing, but now applying it to COVID-19. From the early research coming out of Italy and China, it became very clear early on that COVID-19 is not just a respiratory virus, but instead affects numerous organ systems. And this has resulted in unpredictable patient courses in hospital that clinicians are still struggling with, and now we're seeing that in Canada as well. We realize that there exists a large data gap and that our mission should be to curate a high quality, open clinical data set and use that data set to build clinical decision support tools that will help frontline workers predict which patients are likely to deteriorate before it actually happens. Not only will this help improve the care of Canadians in hospitals suffering from this devastating disease, but it will help inform healthcare jurisdictions how to distribute the limited resources we have available, such as ventilators, in a data-driven and evidence-based manner. The Supercluster believed in this vision and have given us the financial and political means to pursue this ambitious project. They helped to shape our solution to ensure we're maximizing our impact on the healthcare ecosystem by investing in a consortium of partners that we believe represent the best AI talent in Canada, world-class academic hospitals, and leading COVID-19 test manufacturers. Collectively, we will do everything in our power to ensure that the Supercluster's investment, and in turn, the investment of the Canadian people, leads to a meaningful impact.
Thanks so much, Alexander. I think we're running a bit short on time, and I thought that was a great story. So maybe I could pass it back to Sue, who's going to do a Q&A with the minister. Thanks, Alexander.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Jessica. Fantastic stories. Minister Bains, I've got some questions for you, but why don't I give you the microphone first? I know time is short with us, to see if you've got any questions for either Jessica or Alexander.
No, they're just great initiatives that speak to real challenges that we're experiencing. So for me, I'm just really excited to hear about these projects and look forward to seeing their continued success.
So you're giving the microphone back to me then to ask you some questions. You're living dangerously, so let's go. The first question is actually a question that came in from our community before today's event, who wanted to hear from you directly a little bit more about your government's response, our government's response to COVID-19.
I would say that you'll see that articulated tomorrow from the speech from the throne. But essentially, thus far, our number one objective has been to support Canadians, to support Canadian businesses. We've been very ambitious about the level of support, particularly around income support for Canadians through the Canada Emergency response benefit or the wage subsidy. We've seen over 8 million individual Canadians apply for the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. We've seen a significant amount of businesses that needed support around liquidity, needed cash on hand. We provided a small business account, $40,000 loan for them. Over 700,000 businesses applied for that and received that. And those are just two examples of the economic measures we took to make sure that we flattened the curve, didn't overwhelm our healthcare system in order to save lives and save jobs. So I would say thus far, that has really been our number one priority. And for me in particular, the point of pride has been around how businesses have also stepped up. Right across the country, we made a call to action at the beginning of this pandemic when we were struggling to acquire and purchase personal protective equipment. And right now, I would say that 50%, so 50 cents to every dollar that we spend on procurement is from Canadian companies, Canadian solutions sourced locally. That wasn't the case in the beginning. We were virtually at 0% in March. And so we've seen Canadian companies scale up, pivot, retool, and do some amazing things. For example, medical grade gowns were in need, and we had 18 apparel companies step up, and they use construction house wrap or the nylon from airbags as material to build those medical grade gowns. We've seen, for example, with ventilators, Art McDonald used off-the-shelf parts to build a ventilator. And Art McDonald is a Nobel laureate. So using his science, his know-how, his connections, particularly with his Italian counterparts, to come forward with this solution. And we've seen companies like GM also retool. And so these are some examples, but in particular, I want to acknowledge the superclusters as well, and digital supercluster. I know that you have invested $60 million towards the COVID-19 effort, 37 different projects. And one in particular that stood out that my team and I were talking about prior to this was the Precision Health Wallet project that enables people to be able to get test results, prescription history, treatment of records in a very safe and secure manner. And so as people are becoming more and more digital, we're seeing some of those incredible solutions play out. And so this just explains and underscores the importance of all hands on deck, which is, it's not simply about government, but it's a public-private partnership of everyone coming together as we support Canadians. And we have to recognize that we're still in a pandemic. So I just want to say thank you to many of the companies, many of the individuals that stepped up, that continue to, and as we heard today as well, put forward incredible solutions to help solve some very important challenges and problems that we're facing.
Thank you, Minister. That was a fantastic commentary and really painted the picture of both your personal commitment, your government's commitment to building us back better and keeping us safe during most unusual times. And speaking of times, I know our time is pretty much up with you, and I know you have a very, very demanding schedule the rest of the afternoon, almost evening for you now. And so I'm going to call on Fiona Dalton, please, the President of Providence Healthcare, to say a few closing words to you, Minister.
Thank you so much, Sue. It's my honour to say a personal thank you, Minister Bains, on behalf of the Digital Technology Supercluster Board and our whole community for your time, your keen interest, and all of your excellent insights. It's a real honour for me to be on the Supercluster Board on behalf of Providence Healthcare. We lead St Paul's Hospital, and we're known across the world for our innovation and our care, and particularly for patients in HIV, urban health, cardiac, respiratory. And the Supercluster is really helping us bring that digital innovation to the populations that we serve. And that's making a difference not just for people of Vancouver and BC, but actually this changing the standard of care around the world. So just one tiny example, we're leading one of the Supercluster's newest projects, which focuses on real-time diagnosis of pneumonia as a result of COVID. And with UBC, Change Healthcare, Clarius Mobile Healthcare, we have done an amazing amount in the last 3 months, and we wouldn't have been able to do any of it without the Supercluster. So we wanted to say a big thank you to you for your leadership in making the Supercluster program actually happen, and for all your support along the way. And I know that I think I speak for everyone on this call when I say that I truly hope this initiative is here to stay, because we're just getting started. And when we work together, we do believe we can change the world. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Minister. I think you, I don't know if you...
if I may, Sue, very quickly, and I'll be fairly concise, but I just wanted to take this opportunity because I know that there's a number of people across the country that are listening, that are part of this conversation right now. Tomorrow, our government will be presenting a speech from the throne. We'll be highlighting the future direction we want to take this country in as we're still dealing with the pandemic. And we're going to be talking about supporting Canadians. We're going to be talking about doing it in a sustainable manner, in an inclusive manner, in a manner that speaks to the digital challenges and opportunities that we see. And I firmly believe that the digital technology supercluster is well positioned to champion a lot of these issues, particularly in healthcare, which has now become so prominent. And it's so relevant in the conversations that I've been part of and listening to today as well. And as we think through new smart industrial policy, as we move the country forward and think about what that economic recovery looks like, it's about not only building back, but it's about building back better together. And that is so critical. And it's going to require, as I said before, all hands on deck. And I'm so proud of the work that the digital technology supercluster has done. It has such a strong foundation to move forward and continue to provide growth and jobs, helping companies scale up, drive innovation, look at solutions that will have a positive impact on our communities and for future generations. So you're really well positioned as we're moving forward. You'll see some of the themes that I've talked about briefly highlighted in greater detail tomorrow. So stay tuned, and I look forward to continue to work with yourself, Sue, and Bill, and others as well. And once again, thank you very much for your leadership.
Thank you, Minister Bains, and thank you for your final comments there. I'm sure we'd be happy to take a look at the draft speech from the throne and throw a few in there if you want, but might be a little bit late in the day. Thank you for your commitment to Canada. Thank you for helping us stay safe, and we are going to build a better Canada, and we're going to do it through digital technologies across multiple sectors. And so I know you have a pressing demand right now on your time. So thank you again. We will talk soon, and thank you for your time and your comments.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you very much for allowing me to be part of the conversation today.
Take care. So I think the minister is now leaving our call. If not, you are welcome to stay, but I do think he has to leave. So Bill, I'm going to turn the microphone back to you so that we can hear from our other two members in Member Spotlight presentation.
So
Where do you go?
Thank you very much, Sue. And now it gives me great pleasure to reintroduce Lynda, who maybe can share a couple more minutes about the project that she's involved with. Lynda, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'll try and be brief, but as the CEO of Curatio, a Canadian company headquartered in Vancouver, and like I'm sure all of you here today, I wanted to lean in and help the healthcare sector during the pandemic. So Supercluster not only gave Curatio a model for doing that, but it also helped us form collaborative partnerships that have fast-tracked our growth and the future of company. Quite honestly, it's been transformative for Curatio, and I want to tell you a little bit about that. So Curatio is leading a project called Stronger Together, along with our co-lead, Cloud DX. And together with hospital partners, health authorities, Interior Health, UHN, our academic research team at UBC and the Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Management, amongst many others, we formed a consortium to tackle a very specific problem, and that's supporting outpatients. So we're using the Curatio platform to connect patients to each other and to health programs, health literacy, coaching, and services. So what we do is we match patients to other patients and to the groups and the health and the daily trackers that they need for disease management. And then what we're doing is integrating in Cloud DX, and they do advanced real-time patient monitoring. So not just virtual visits, but also taking vital signs and providing that back to providers. And we're working with the UBC's Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Management to develop a type of program marketplace so that this type of social infrastructure we're building can be built upon by others, like many of you on the call today. So what this means for the patient is that they now have everything they need in the palm of their hand, from social support to what they need to do on a daily basis to real-time monitoring. Well, what it means for healthcare providers is that those monitoring vital signs and feedback are giving them a way to safely prescribe social support and keep people healthy in their homes, both pre and post-surgery. So we focused on outpatients and those that are most vulnerable and isolated, including those living with chronic disease, senior citizens, caregivers, those with disabilities, working parents, and those of us that are needing some support to stay safely at home. And so far, the feedback's been really tremendous. I'm beyond excited about this. So as I mentioned, this project and initiative has been transformative for us. It's created very valuable partnerships. The matchmaking that other speakers have talked about today was very helpful to us. We've more than doubled our team size in the last quarter. We've signed new clients, we're creating new IP, and we've raised our profile. So finally, I mean, I think when you're thinking about the supercluster, you know, I think about it in two ways. One is really facilitating consortiums that build reciprocal value and providing a model to do that, and a really interesting and innovative way to fast track to market. The second thing is really to bridge the gap in some of the other programs that are in place. And so, you know, this really helps fast track that path to market. So in my humble opinion, you know, I'm very honored to be here today. I can't think of another program like this. I think it's unique to Canada. I'm so happy to see it growing and to see all of you on the call here today. And if there's anything I can help with, feel free to reach out directly.
Thank you so much, Lynda. And finally, Cory, if you could share a little bit about the projects that you're involved with.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, as alluded to previously, we're a little bit of an anomaly here in that we're actually not the lead, but actually contributing to 4 other additional projects, which I think has been really exciting because we get to see where AI can play a central role across a variety of areas. So we've got 2 specific areas within COVID. One, Molecular U, is the lead developing a platform for personalized COVID-19 risk assessment. Second is Help Seeker, which is a project to develop insights to mitigate the long-term social impacts of COVID-19. And then we've got 2 other adjacent projects. So still definitely, of course, pandemic related, but FoodX is a project related to safe food delivery. And then Seamless MD, which is an amazing scale up in Toronto, actually developing a digital solution to manage surgical solutions post-care. You know, our model is built around partnerships. And so this consortia-based innovation, we think is actually the wave of the future, especially when it comes to AI and ML. You see, you've got to have that domain expertise with the data combined with the data science expertise. Without any one of those 3 legs of the stool, we've experienced, or we don't think that projects really will have nearly the same level of success. And I think this is meaningful for us because what we've seen is that Canada for so long, especially in my home province of Alberta, we've lost 90% of our grads, many of those south of the border. And what we're seeing and what we're proving is that if we build teams with other A players and give them interesting, meaningful projects, they'll stay. And that's really exciting because what really matters is that we actually build IP and jobs that stay in this country You know, that's the most important thing for, as I think about my kids and wanting to build a successful future. And as Canada and Alberta, in my case specifically, really evolves and figures out what it looks like over the next decade. I really think the digital supercluster plays such a central role. None of these projects would have happened without that matchmaking or without the speed with which they've acted. Thanks very much, Bill.
Thank you so much, Cory. And let me again thank Jessica, Alexander, Lynda, and Cory for joining us today. And I'm going to turn the mic back to Sue.
Thanks, Bill. Thank you, Cory, Jessica, Lynda, Alexander. Absolutely fantastic presentations and a small sample of the kinds of work that we are doing across the entire supercluster. And COVID has unquestionably accelerated the opportunities and also the demand for us to innovate, for us to be able to be agile, resilient, all those words that we're using today, but mostly to work together to deliver on outcomes. And that's core to who we are and how we operate. You've heard that from our 4 speakers today. And what I'd like to do is give you just a little bit of a show and tell now with just a few slides to put a little bit more of a picture around some of the things that you've heard. And then we're going to open up the chat line. I know we're running a little bit behind time, so I'm going to short circuit some of my comments. But you've heard us talking about industry and driven by industry and members. We are a member-driven organization. Yes, we are the product of policy out of the Government of Canada, but it's Canadian industry, academic organizations, research organizations, small and large, that are looking for the opportunity to grow and scale and are seeing the opportunity in the supercluster. When we started this organization, actually I should say when Bill and Sean and Ian and Francesca started this organization as a vision in 2017, that was the idea. When we launched in 2018, after the announcement by the Government of Canada, we had just over 200 organizations involved, and virtually all of them from British Columbia. What you're seeing here today is a map that is already out of date. It says over 700 organizations are involved with us now, and organizations from across the country are now actively involved in the supercluster. If Bill had the microphone right now, Bill would confirm it's 800. And growing every day. We're driven by industry, and that's critical because industry is fast, industry is outcome oriented, and industry knows how to work with each other to deliver the kinds of results that we need for our own companies and for the country at large. Moving on to the next slide, that would be fantastic. As we know, a large portion of the Canadian economy is driven by SMEs. SMEs are crucial to the Canadian economy, has been in the past, is now, and will be in the future. And we've seen reports such as the report published by RBC earlier this year about the importance of small business to our economic recovery as a country. And I know that there are some comments that came early in the Supercluster initiative that thought that maybe this was going to be an initiative that was going to help big companies get bigger and keep small companies small. What this slide demonstrates in the graph in the middle here is that 46% of the investment in our projects comes from SMEs. Almost half of the investment in our projects comes from SMEs. And just a reminder to those of you who might not be familiar with the Supercluster, we are not a funding agency. We are a co-investment model. And so when we hear Cory and Alexandra and Lynda talking about these projects that they're working on and the people and the organizations they're working with, they come up with the ideas. They put the proposals in. Our Supercluster independent evaluation committees and our own staff evaluate these proposals, and then industry invests in these projects and we follow. And so the fact that we have nearly half of our investment coming from small and medium enterprises is a real testament to the value that we are bringing to this essential element of the Canadian economy. Just moving on now to the next slide, thank you. And keeping in mind the importance of outcomes, the importance of impacts that I mentioned a moment ago. That's what industry is about. And earlier this year, we surveyed 32 of our projects. That's a little less than half of our current portfolio. But we wanted to bring this data forward because it's current, it's from August, and it's about half of the projects. So about half of the projects in total have reported that they are working on or have developed 102 new products and services. Products and services that wouldn't exist but for the supercluster model and the commitment of the members. 68% of these project teams have forged new partnerships. What does that mean? We hear from organizations like Compression AI, who's on our Precision Health for Agriculture project, who have met organizations through the supercluster and as a result are either working on a project, but as important in some cases, more importantly, they've got new partnerships with new organizations, new potential customers. That's the secret to scaling, is having those relationships that can help you build. 44% of our projects, of the selected projects that we've surveyed, have raised additional funding. Funding that's critical to the scaling and the continued success of our companies, especially during COVID. And 40% of our project teams are exploring international exports. I can tell you, I'm a pretty ambitious person and I am very excited about the work that we're doing. But when these numbers came in, they actually took me a little bit by surprise, especially because we're doing this during a pandemic. In March, I guess, at the end of March, when the COVID pandemic started to really hit hard and our economy and our society closed down, we looked at ourselves around the supercluster and we said, what could we do to help? How can we help? And in working with the Government of Canada said, can you help? Can you help working with your companies deliver solutions or at least opportunities that can help reduce or mitigate the impact that we were starting to see from COVID-19, whether it's new issues or whether it's other issues being exacerbated. And our community came together. We set aside a $60 million fund. That's all we had. That's the total funding that we had uncommitted at that time. We set aside a $60 million fund. And by the beginning of July, we had received 700 proposals. And we had fully committed that $60 million fund. Those 700 proposals accounted for $1.4 billion of project value. What does that mean? That means that as we reviewed the proposals, as we examined the outcomes, as we looked at the business plans and the organizations that were around these proposals, we were able to pick the best of the best of the best. And many of those, the overwhelming majority of the organizations involved in our COVID-19 program are small and medium enterprises. Moving on to the next slide. I think that's the last one. So we've talked about the growth in our membership, and we've talked about how our members have grown from around 200 to now 800 and growing every single day. And so I'm going to move on to talk a little bit more about what's in the future and what are some of the things that we are doing with our project teams and with our companies. We've got 67 projects in the portfolio, and much as I'd like to take you on a guided tour of all 67 of those projects, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you just a couple of the examples of the kinds of outcomes that we're delivering. We have a program called Point of Care Ultrasound for COVID-19. And this is a project that is delivering ultrasound to the bedside. For anybody that's had an ultrasound, you know that that's not very often delivered at the bedside. It involves significant infrastructure and machinery. But our members came together and delivered tools that can allow for ultrasounds to be done using handheld, which is critical for physicians and patients in urban as well as in rural and remote communities. This tool combines machine learning along with portable devices and a cloud-based platform to create an integrated point-of-care network that ensures diagnosis of Canadians during COVID-19 is fast, efficient, and cost-effective, and reduces the need for specialized training. So what it means is that you can have an ultrasound done whether you're in northern British Columbia or northern Manitoba or in a very busy urban hospital using a handheld machine. This project actually initially started with handhelds being designed for supporting women with difficult pregnancies who couldn't or didn't want to travel to urban centers to get ultrasounds. And very quickly, with COVID hitting, they pivoted and they created this technology. In a matter of weeks, this project consortium joined forces and deployed more than 80 of these handheld scanners across British Columbia, and we will expand now to the broader Canadian environment. One of the physicians that's benefited from this in Fernie, BC, for those of you not familiar with Fernie, southeastern British Columbia, has told us that the point of care ultrasound has been a game changer for rural care, that it's allowing them to deliver immediate diagnosis and for triaging and expediting trauma cases to higher levels of care faster and more effectively than they've ever been able to do. Canada's success is going to be delivered by digital technologies that are going to solve critical issues and capture massive opportunities. The issues that we're solving, the problems that we're addressing, are going to lead us to significant benefits, not just in our healthcare system, but benefits that transcend the entire economy. One of the comments that the minister made was about climate change. And on that note, we've got 6 projects in our portfolio right now that are specifically focused on addressing the issues related to climate change. These include our freshwater data commons. And that's a project where several organizations have come together called Carl Data Solutions, Living Lakes Canada, and Tech Resources, amongst others, to develop a platform that can assess and monitor and then protect the health of one of the most significant natural resources that we have, our freshwater bodies, freshwater systems across Canada, our rivers, our lakes, and our streams. And it might surprise you that we don't have a system that monitors those critical resources. And so we're starting with a focus, the project team is starting with a focus on the Columbia River Basin, and then we'll expand the breadth of this project to extend to other water systems across Canada. Hence, Living Lakes Canada is from Ontario. So this is one example of many projects that are fostering sustainable development and helping us to monitor and address impacts of climate change on our environment. I know we are getting very close to time here. I do want to see if we've got questions coming from our chat line before we close. So I am going to go to the chat line if we can get access to that. If we have any questions, or if we have any questions that you want to ask using the hands up. Now's your chance. Bill's on screen.
Hi, so Sue, just I think for the audience, just hit the raise your hand function, and I think Sue will see it pop up.
That's the theory. I see Gerri.
No, no, I was just chatting.
Hi, Dan here from King's Distributed Systems. I was just looking for the raise your hand option, and I think I just clapped by mistake. Congratulations on the momentum you've created with Supercluster. We're excited, we're a new member, and we're not only excited about our project, but we're excited to be brought together with other members here. We're just wondering, given the limited remaining funding, if you can comment on how you see obtaining further support for the Supercluster program and how we as members can help in that regard.
Thank you. Thank you. That's almost like a paid advertisement, but I know we didn't pay you to say that. So thank you very much. So yeah, I mean, there's clearly a really good news story. And I think the minister grabbed onto that, that we have delivered on our outcomes 2 years ahead of schedule. So we are, as many of you know, closing in on being fully invested. We will be fully invested of our federal government funds by the end of March 2021. So the end of the current fiscal year, which is 2 years ahead of schedule. We've been in many conversations with the Government of Canada about not just the success that we've had, but the potential that we see in the future. We think we're just getting started, and Fiona mentioned that as well, and others have said that as well, both today and in other presentations. And so one thing that we are actively doing is conveying to anyone that will listen, especially people that that are in the Government of Canada or associated with the Government of Canada, the value of this initiative. This was an experiment. This was an experiment by the Government of Canada, and nobody knew how it was going to work. And it's worked. This model works. It works because of the nature of the energy and the enthusiasm that we have, people like you, Dan, and the others that we've heard from today, and the 200 plus people on this call. And let's build on a success story. So one of the things that is very helpful, seeing as you asked, is if other people speak about us rather than us speaking about ourselves. So the kinds of stories that you heard today, the kinds of experiences that you have had, if they're bad, let us know. If they're good, let others know. And so any opportunity that you have to share the benefits that you've had from the supercluster, whether it's for your organization or whether it's for a larger, in a larger context for patients or for the environment, we welcome any opportunity for you to share both your success and what you see coming in the future. And we are, for those of you that might be pulling out your calculators and saying, oh my goodness, they're going to be out of money. We're very confident that that's not going to be the case. We are very confident, and you heard from the minister, that they see the benefit and the value to Canadian industry and want to keep this going. So thank you for that, Dan. I think now we are actually at time, unless we have more hands up, and I actually can't see those.
I could ask one question.
Sure.
It's not really a question, but I would say this. I'm a director of two companies, Molecular U Corporation and Precision Nanosystems, both in Vancouver. They benefited terrifically from this program. So I hope it continues. We've used it well, and good on you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Svat. Thank you very much. I know we are at time. There are some other questions, but I'm going to invite anyone that's got a question to give me a call, give Bill a call. And at this point, out of respect of everybody's calendar, I am going to turn the microphone over to Gerri Sinclair, one of our inaugural board members, a driving force in innovation, in technology, and in advancing things that nobody thought could be done. Gerri's the person that shows you what you can do. Gerri was recently appointed as the Innovation Commissioner for British Columbia just 2 months ago. And in case you're wondering, the Innovation Commissioner for British Columbia is BC's champion for technology and innovation, the person who is responsible for facilitating partnerships and promoting innovation across different sectors. And we could not have a better person in the position than Gerri Sinclair. So Gerri, I'm going to turn it over to you now to close off our formal meeting with our thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Sue. And I too have a meeting that I'm going to have to rush off to. So my closing remarks will be very, very brief indeed. What a great content-packed hour you folks delivered. I don't think I've ever seen time fly so quickly with so many speakers. And Sue, we would have loved to have heard about more of the projects that Supercluster is doing. And I loved hearing from our interesting and indeed innovative group of speakers, including you, Sue, but Bill, and our partners, and Fiona, and of course, Minister Bains. And can't wait to find out what nuggets are going to be hidden or even visible in his a speech from the throne tomorrow. I think what really stood out for me was the fact that so many of the companies that you profiled here are actually made the point that they're benefiting from COVID in terms of hiring more people, creating more jobs, with the help of Supercluster, of course, but that actually there's been the silver lining in the cloud of COVID. And we know that the common saying is that necessity is the mother of invention. Well, I think we can feel pretty safe in saying adversity can be the mother of innovation. Innovation is much more important than invention, because innovation means creating something new, a new idea, a new business model, a new social impact model that actually has real impact in the world. So on behalf of the Supercluster, we'd like to thank all of our member community for their determination and the remarkable accomplishments made this past year in building a better future for all Canadians, and looking forward to this this conference again next year when we can hear about, even in more detail, all of the wonderful innovations that are going on. So thanks again for joining us, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you, Gerri. Have a great afternoon, anyone. If there are questions outstanding, please send them in to Bill or myself, and we'll make sure they get answered. Take care, everyone. Thank you.